And it is a great pleasure for me to welcome my dear friend and a true Mediterranean champion, Vice President of the European Investment Bank, Philippe de Fontaine, Vive, with whom I had the privilege and the pleasure today to sign a cooperation memorandum of understanding between the EIB and between the Secretariat of the Union for the Mediterranean. We had a bilateral meeting, including myself and the EIB delegation, and also all the deputies, secretaries general of the Secretariat, who I am also privileged to work with. And we discussed various issues regarding this agreement that we have just signed, in addition to other potential cooperation prospects in the various 6 sectors that we have at the Secretariat for the future. So it is a very important day for the Secretariat, an important day for the Union for the Mediterranean. 2 institutions that are geared to promoting dialogue and cooperation, regional integration, and more proximity between the south and the north of the Mediterranean have joined forces today. They have always been close. I have to pay a word of tribute to Philippe himself for the excellent work and devotion that he has always shown towards the Mediterranean, in particular as a bank, but also, I should say, as a person. I have had the privilege of knowing Philippe for now 4 or 5 years during my previous capacity, and I've always seen in him a devoted person who wants to do something good for the people of the Mediterranean. I think that the importance of this MOU is that it brings about a vision in concrete terms, a vision that wants to benefit the livelihood of the peoples of the Mediterranean and try to focus on the mandates of the 2 institutions and turn it and cement it into realities on the ground.
Not only Jordan, but also the whole region, and we share this vision of the Euromed with the success of the economic and social development. When we scheduled this signature of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Secretariat of the Union for the Mediterranean that you are heading and the European Investment Bank that I'm heading in this region under the so-called wording of Philippe, we didn't know that we would be with this region under such an actuality. And this shows the success of the European and Mediterranean region. Economic and social development is the key, and according to our respective mandates, we are investing ourselves to support all those projects recognized as a priority so that we improve the living of the peoples around the Mediterranean. And when you improve the livings of the people, this brings over time good news. We are in Barcelona, we are so in the Iberic Peninsula, and this has been shown in the past, either through the Spanish experience with Juan Carlos, which led to a revolution, or in Portugal, with what is called in French Révolution des œillets, and nowadays what happens in Tunisia under the so-called Révolution de Jasmin is the same process, is the process that we have embarked ourselves in supporting the priority projects. And so we have reviewed together this morning. We will continue dramatically to support high education and education more generally, transport, energy, job creation, small and medium-sized enterprises, civil protection to prevent difficulties. All of that is your agenda, and by this Memorandum of Understanding, we put ourselves in EIB at your disposal, because we have gained some experience in Europe and in this region, where, by the way, we have become the first lender. In 2010, last year, we have lent 2.6 billion euros. So this is more than expected with those 2.6 billion euros invested in the region, in all the sectors that we have just mentioned. We show our commitment to face new developments. This region has been, let's say, a little bit protected from the economic and financial crisis which was created in the United States. It has suffered less from this crisis than Europe. But nowadays, because of the linkage between the real economy, this region is at stake, and year 2012 and 11 is the year where together all those committed to this region have to gather to bring more support so that we will try as much as possible to speed up this integration that we are working on in the different sectors. This is the meaning of this memorandum of understanding that we have just signed. The two teams are really cooperating with one another, and this cooperation between ourselves is a cooperation open to others. It's not a privileged cooperation trying to exclude anyone. It's a cooperation open to others. The first and clear partner that we recognize ourselves, we say with my friend Ahmad, is the European Commission. The European Commission is with both of us. So even if Stefan Fülle is not here today with us, you could read what he has just announced last Friday to the House of Lords in UK. He is totally committed to provide more means to support this region. This is important, and all the other partners would be welcome, I'm sure, in our enhanced partnership. For us, the Union for the Mediterranean has become, in this region, our marching order. We are not looking to define our own priorities in this region. We take the Union for the Mediterranean priorities as being our priorities. So if you look back to what happened in 2009 and 2010, the first years of activity of the Union for the Mediterranean, you could sum up by saying that more than 2/3 of the projects that we did finance are exactly matching one of the 6 priorities of the Union for the Mediterranean. This is something in development. We discussed, for instance, this morning how much urban development could become even more important, because this also is important, I think, for us. And so this percentage could increase over time, and I think it should, but we will see how this will evolve. So in 2009, it was 80% of 1.6 billion, so it makes 1.3 billion. And in 2010, it should make something like 1.8 billion, roughly.
But let me again emphasize that this issue is developing on the basis of the work itself and the potentials that we will be developing at the Secretariat within the 6 sectors. And things will be discussed in the future with the EIB in the context of what we achieve in terms of our mandate and our work. And this is, of course, is reflected in the MOU that we signed today. For sure, this is a very important agreement that we signed today. But the agreement has always been there, regardless of whether it was put on paper or not. The EIB has been one of the most active partners in the Mediterranean process. And as we just heard, the amount of investment and support that has been given. Obviously, the whole issue or the whole logic behind the Union for the Mediterranean is try to create a partnership between the public and the private sector. And given the mandate of the Secretariat to invest in projects, concrete and real, will eventually and intuitively needs money and finance. And I believe that the EIB is one of the partners who have been active in this domain, and I'm sure that by virtue of this MOU that has been just signed today, will become more involved in the process. Obviously, we have to utilize the networks of the EIB, whether it was in the private sector, companies, banks, financiers, funding partners, in order to bring them all on board, because eventually the success for this project hinges about finding the financial resources and the proper financial resources to do the projects. And I believe that with the help of the EIB, it is a very, very important step that we took today.
It's all about, isn't it?
There are meetings in the pipeline to approve the guidelines, and I believe that this is a very important issue. We need to have a set of guidelines against which we choose a project. And I believe that we have also the possibility of trying to have a fast-track approach, whereby we can pick some projects with preliminary guidelines, which I know they do exist anyway. They have been referred to in the Paris Declaration and the Marseille Declaration. And against those guidelines, which are not very specified or technical or detailed, we can pick some of the projects and move forward. So I hope that in the coming few months we will be able to agree with the representatives of the states on the project guidelines for the Union for the Mediterranean.
For the technical one, by definition, a technical agreement has to have a period of 2 years, but this is renewable, and this is what is important to say, that this is a long-standing relationship which is being created today, but we needed technically such a document, notably because you have noticed that we will assign people from EIB coming from Luxembourg being posted here in Barcelona. So they will continue to be paid by EIB, but put at the disposal of the Secretariat. And so we needed this legal framework, and this will be renewed, I'm sure, for as long as needed.
It is specified in the MOU that it runs for a period of 3 years, but which is renewable. Sometimes you don't really give that attention to what the legal thing's about, because if you have the political willingness and commitment, as I say always, there is no point of having things on paper. And this is the real situation between the EIB and the Secretariat and the Union at large. On your other question, let me say that I have been following carefully what has been happening in Tunisia. And this is a matter that will be decided by the Tunisian people themselves. This is an internal affair. And the most important thing here is that we would like to see all political parties and relevant stakeholders in the political Tunisian framework coming together on consensus, a national one, that puts an end to violence and brings together all the parties again in a national consensus that puts Tunisia again on its always active and important role in the regional and Mediterranean framework. It is important that we have stability and security back in that country in order for the Tunisian people to not waste the achievements that have been accomplished so far in that country.
Pour moi, les choses sont claires. Nous avons fait dans l'Union européenne des évolutions comme celle que vient de connaître la Tunisie, un préalable à l'élargissement de l'Union européenne. Nous l'avons connu en Espagne, nous l'avons connu au Portugal, nous l'avons connu en Grèce. D'une autre manière, nous connaissons une évolution de ce type en Turquie, et je crois que nous pouvons tous avoir un respect formidable pour ce que le peuple tunisien a engagé. Comme l'a dit à l'instant le secrétaire général, c'est le peuple tunisien qui a engagé cette transition démocratique et nous devons d'abord un respect immense à ses propres décisions. Et comme il vient de le dire, c'est maintenant capitaliser avec un gouvernement d'union nationale qui est le premier objectif pour restaurer, je dirais, des conditions de développement économique et social dans l'intérêt de l'ensemble du peuple tunisien. Nous avons chacun dans notre mandat de soutenir ce type d'évolution. Le hasard de calendrier fait que nous avions programmé avec le Premier ministre, M. Ranouchi, une conférence sur la création d'emplois productifs dans les petites et moyennes entreprises le 3 mars prochain. Dès la constitution du nouveau gouvernement tunisien, j'écrirai à M. Ranouchi pour lui demander s'il souhaite le maintien de cette conférence qui pourrait être l'occasion de la démonstration claire et nette du soutien renforcé de l'Union européenne et du secrétariat de l'Union pour la Méditerranée, puisque nous co-organisons avec le secrétariat de l'Union pour la Méditerranée cette conférence à Tunis. Si évidemment, pour des considérations d'ordre et de calendrier, le Premier ministre tunisien souhaitait décaler, nous sommes évidemment à sa disposition, mais je crois que c'est une évolution qui pourrait marquer les esprits de façon durable pour la Tunisie et au-delà de la Tunisie, et nous serons à son écoute et en soutien de ces évolutions.
I agree with you that indeed the events that took place in Tunisia is a clear mark that we need and a demonstration that we need a more focused and reinforced partnership. Because at the end of the day, the whole Union for the Mediterranean is about creating synergies between the values that we all have together. And I remind you of the agreement of the heads of state and government in the Paris Declaration, where it was agreed that we need to push forward the values of participation and freedom and democracy. Obviously, it is very important in the line of the work that the Secretariat is doing and the Union for the Mediterranean is aiming at, to look at the context of events in an economical context. And this is why it brings to my mind the importance of the Secretariat and the Union, that we really need to focus on concrete and real projects on the southern rim of the Mediterranean in order to address the issue of non-employment and in order to create job opportunities and better lives for the social, economic, and welfare for the people. These are the causes for disturbances, and I think that we have to read it in this context. Again, I hope that the Union for the Mediterranean will be able to bring the partnership closer and create more synergies between the values of all the partners. And on the issue of touring the capitals, obviously, I always, and that is my personal belief, I believe that we need to do more on the visibility in the minds of the public. And I believe that we need to go out on what I call roadshows in order to explain to the political apparatuses and also the public and the people and the media and the stakeholders what we're doing and what the Union for the Mediterranean is about. At the end of the day, the technical work is important. And yes, I agree with you that this is a technical organization as was agreed by the member states. But at the end of the day, there is a political link. And obviously, having presence in the public, having what I always call a public diplomacy engagement is very important because there's no value if you do all the work and nobody knows exactly what you're doing. You need to deliver the ideas to the public and deliver to the public what you're doing at your technical work. I have had some tours in the last year. By the way, it's a coincidence that it is 1 year now in my position since I was elected. And time passes by very quickly, I tell you. And I believe it was almost 1 year since I sat at this desk delivering my first press conference. And I did tour some countries, and I believe that we have to engage more European capitals on this, and hopefully we can do this in the lines of the coming months. If I may take this first part, because I think that the second part will be addressed by Philippe. There is the EIB does not contribute to the budget of the Secretariat. The Secretariat's budget comes from the contribution of the partners themselves, the 43 countries, on voluntary basis, and in addition to the European Commission. So this is the budget where the money comes from. But obviously, by having this sort of special relationship with the EIB, the Secretariat can tap on some of the financing tools that the EIB have in order for us to deliver on our work, the technical work, and also execute elements in our work program that has been agreed and approved by the partners themselves.
As I said previously, for this region, our priorities are the one of the Union for the Mediterranean. We will not try to elaborate a regional planning which could be different from the Union for the Mediterranean Secretariat work, because that's the best demonstration that we are linking one with the other. We have governing bodies, by definition, each of us, like the Union for the Mediterranean Secretariat reports to 43 countries. We do report to our European ministers, and so in July, we will go back, as every year, to the European finance ministers to present to them the result of the year, including this memorandum of understanding, and we will propose to them to increase the support to the region. But on sectorial terms, let us not duplicate efforts. What we have to do for all the finance institutions in the region is to follow the guidance of the Union for the Mediterranean, so we will avoid to lose energy.
Well, if we don't have any further questions, I would like to thank you very much for having made the efforts to come and seeing us today. I thank you, and hopefully we'll see you very soon in the future. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.